Ron Paul is like a brand new sports car. When you first get it, you're like, man, this is really fucking sweet. This is a brand new car. I've never had a car that can do all this shit. And you're really excited about your car, but then you go to get insurance for it. And since it's a brand new exotic sports car, the insurance is high as fuck. And you have to pay more for gas because it's a more powerful engine. And it's hard to do maintenance and find parts for your car because it's so exotic. The point is, it's nice and shiny on the surface, but it gets a little troublesome when you dig deeper. And that's exactly how I feel about Ron Paul. Now, Ron Paul is just one of many people who have announced that they're running for president. But the reason I'm talking about him specifically is because he seemed to really capture the hearts of the internets and the young people there. And this is my stomping ground, so let's do this. Now, Ron Paul has a lot of great common sense ideas that really appeal to young people and people on the internet, like upholding civil liberties, non-interventionist foreign policy, and ending the war on drugs. But when I dig deeper, I feel like a lot of his most radical ideas go beyond what's good for the country, and it's more like what fits my libertarian agenda. Now, Ron Paul is what you call a strict constitutionalist. He believes that the only powers that the federal government should have are those that are expressly given in the Constitution, and everything else should be decided by the states. And that's fine. That's basically what it says in the Constitution. The problem is Ron Paul is a literal fundamentalist constitutionalist, which means he gives very little room for interpretation. For example, the preamble to the Constitution says that one of the purposes of the Constitution is to promote the general welfare and to provide for the common defense. Well, what the fuck does that mean? Well, some people think that means invading other countries and preemptively killing people that may attack us, and obviously Ron Paul doesn't agree with that. And other people think that this means providing universal health care, and Ron Paul doesn't agree with that either. But what does Ron Paul think it means? I don't know for sure, but my point is it's not as cut and dry as Ron Paul would like it to be. Most of these issues are too dynamic and volatile to find specific insight about them in the Constitution itself. And those are the issues that Ron Paul would say the states should decide. But to me, giving the states too much power is just as bad as giving the federal government too much power. Like, how is that different? For proof, I point to Arizona and Alabama's racist immigration laws. I point to the fact that gay marriage is still illegal in 44 of 50 states. I point to the fact that 9 states have anti-abortion laws that are only held back by Roe v. Wade, and if that ever gets overturned, which Ron Paul wants to do, by the way, then these laws will become active immediately. And if Ron Paul becomes president of the United States, nothing is going to be done about any of those things, and that's unacceptable to me. See, I disagree with Ron Paul. I think there are many things that need to be defined at the federal level. States should be prohibited at the federal level from banning gay marriage and abortion. Proper health care should be decided at the federal level to be a basic human right. See, Ron Paul is always talking about freedom, but in his version of America, this translates to freedom for state legislatures, not freedom for American citizens. No matter how much power you take from the federal government, a person that can't have an abortion and can't marry the person they love is not free. Also, I disagree with Ron Paul in that the market can thrive without a buttload of government intervention. Actually, I kind of fail to see how people disagree with this because it keeps getting proven over and over again. Like, the entire reason that we're in a global recession right now is because of banks and corporations running wild and doing dumb shit and the government turning a blind eye to it. Like, that's a fact. Now, I'm not quite sure the extent at which Ron Paul thinks the government should be involved in the market, but clearly the government needs to regulate the market. Or as we have children's toys made with lead paint, or people ignorant of what their food is made out of, or miners trapped in a mine, or an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico because corporations are not pressured by the government to follow any safety procedures. Another thing I strongly disagree with Ron Paul and most Republicans about is that profit-based healthcare is a good idea. The problem with anything profit-based is that profit is not only the main motivator, it's the only motivator. Like, if you go buy a desk from IKEA, the company that made the desk does not give a shit if you think the desk looks cool or if it works. All they care about is whether you buy it. And for a desk, that's fine. It's just a desk. But when you're talking about the well-being and lives of humans, that kind of philosophy is not acceptable. It's immoral. And I don't want to get too off topic here, but a lot of people say things like, well, health insurance companies aren't bad people. They're just doing what makes their company succeed. But I got some news for you. If you knowingly allow a person to get sick and or die just so you can save money, you are a bad person. I'm sorry. Now, obviously, to some extent, free competition encourages companies to make good new products at good prices, but this doesn't work for healthcare, and it never will. Even when the market is free, what makes healthcare companies the most money is never providing the best healthcare. This is why way more money is spent researching and developing pills that keep you alive if you take them every day and continue to buy them than on pills that cure diseases. And that's how it's always going to be as long as healthcare is profit-based. And people like Ron Paul refuse to admit that because it doesn't fit alongside their well-defined ideology. Now, compared to pretty much every other Republican candidate out there right now, I would give the nod to Ron Paul easily because he's the only one that's not completely batshit and the only one that I believe is actually true to what he's saying. But for the reasons I put forward in this video, I could never vote for Ron Paul over a Democrat who supports universal health care and government regulation and gay marriage, and I don't see how any even moderately liberal person could either. But that's just me. What do you guys think about Ron Paul? Leave me a comment. Click that little button that says share down there and tell me what all your friends think about it. Oh, and while you're here, I want to start a series where I answer questions from my subscribers, so if you would, leave me some questions down in the comment. It doesn't matter what kind of questions. They can be serious or not serious or dumb or whatever, and I encourage you to leave me more than one question. Just leave me several questions. You can also leave questions on my Facebook page, which should be on the screen right now. Depending on how many questions I get each time I make a video, I'll do a Q&A video every week or every other week, so send them in.